So out in Brooklyn today, during a live stream of a church service, the bishop who was delivering that service got robbed at gunpoint. Like literally during the live stream, they walked into his church and robbed him at gunpoint. So what we're going to do is watch this video, and then I'm just going to give you guys my thoughts. All right, let's get into it.
How many of you have lost your faith because you saw somebody else die what you about to go through? Yo. All right. Yo, all right. Nobody move.
So I think what bothers me the most about this is the kids crying at the end. Like, how have we gotten here to where we think it's okay to rob the pastor during church service? So I got a few things to say about this. One, I used to be a stick-up kid. Like, my friends and I, we used to rob people. So I don't want to completely, like, judge these kids from a place of, like, how could you do that? I mean, now I view things through that lens after I've been regenerated in Christ. But I remember being those kids. I remember thinking that this was okay. But even when I thought that this was okay, and I was around other people who thought it was okay, we would have never thought about robbing a church, especially during a church service, like walking up in there and robbing it during the service, live streaming. That would have never crossed our minds. And I wasn't even a believer. Like, I didn't even really believe in God, and I still was like, nah, man, I wouldn't play with that. So I'm bothered. Well, let me just say, I am glad, I'm grateful to God that nobody got hurt, that it could have went way worse. They could have went in there, somebody could have did something wrong, and it would be on the news in a whole different light. So thank God that didn't happen. My heart goes out, and tonight going to be praying for all the people who are in that church, for the pastor, for the congregation, for the leadership in that church, and also for the kids who participated in the robbery. They looked really young. I know they were wearing a mask, but they looked young. And man, the youth. Man, it's a reflection of having no hope. Like, imagine having no hope to the point where you're like, the one place where you could possibly find hope, you're like, I'm just gonna go rob it. But yeah, so that's one thing that I have to say. Another thing is, I do not know this Bishop Whitehead. Like, I haven't really looked into him. This is my first time hearing about him, but I briefly just like looked him up after this just to, see who this guy is. And he got a blue check mark. I'm like, wow, how's this guy not been on my radar? But anyway, I started looking at his stuff, and I see that he's driving around in a Rolls Royce. He got a whole bunch of chains. He's wearing like Louis Vuitton suits and expensive glasses. And you guys know how I feel about this stuff. Like, you guys really know how I feel about this stuff when I talk about like how Mike Todd will wear somebody's rent on his shoes while he's in front of the pulpit. Pastors wearing like luxury clothes when they're preaching. And I feel that that's like a lack of discernment. And I have no problem with pastors making money, and if you want some nice stuff, have some nice stuff. But I just have a problem when they parade that nice stuff in front of people. Now, as somebody who used to, live this kind of life, and we would like look for targets, we would look for flashy targets. Now, I'm not saying that just because this pastor is flashy, that gives anyone a right to go like rob them, especially during church. anytime, period. It's wrong. But we have to acknowledge that if you're going to be preaching in one of these type of neighborhoods where people are starving, they're hungry, and you're talking about God in front of them, wearing, bling and all of that stuff and chains, driving around, pulling up in a Rolls Royce, and then you're preaching in front of a hungry group of people, that can really cause some resentment. That can really cause somebody to be like, you know what? Nah, I'm doing this. I'm doing this. I remember the flashier you were, the better you looked like you was doing, the more I wanted to take what you had. And that used to be my mentality. So if you're parading all of this stuff in front of people, it's like dangling meat in front of like a hungry, savage dog. Eventually that dog's going to go for it, and it could possibly bite off your hand in the process. And this is where discernment has to come in. Pastors, if you're listening to this, which you're probably not, but if you are, and you're making a lot of money doing things, as long as it's not like squeezing God's people for that money, I got no problem with it. None at all. But let's not parade our riches in front of people as if there's nothing wrong with doing that. And I know I'll get some pushback. I always do. Well, that's their problem if they don't like seeing someone else win and all of that stuff. Look, yeah, that's cool if you live in the secular world and you're living by secular rules, but we play by a different set of rules here in the kingdom, especially pastors. Biblically, they are to be above reproach. They are to be humble. And as I said, I don't know this dude. Like, I'm literally just looking at it as an outsider looking in and just saying like, dang, dude is pretty flashy. But as I always say, if somebody's discernment is off in one area, then it's probably off in other, even more important areas. And now, by being flashy, now 100% the blame is not on this pastor. 100% not on the pastor. It is on the people who decided to come in there and rob him during service. But there is a piece of that where, because somebody wants to dress flashy and wear all of their chains and everything in a location where people can clock you at. And I know that this pastor is from the streets, so I know that he's street smart. But if you are robbing somebody, this is coming from somebody who used to rob people, we would plan this out. We called it clocking somebody. You know where they are going to be with the paycheck that they just cashed every single Friday. In this case, you know that this pastor is going to be in the pulpit wearing all of his chains, all of his fancy clothes, and all of his jewelry. You know exactly when he'll be there. You'll know that nobody in there is armed. I mean, maybe they were. But you also know that it's a safe place to do this. So as a leader in the church, we need to be aware of the situation that we are putting people in. Now that whole entire congregation is traumatized. So look, we can take that as it being an honest mistake and to learn from it so that we don't repeat these mistakes and continue to put people in danger. So with that being said, tonight I'm praying for the bishop, I'm praying for his congregation, I'm praying for the leaders in his church, and I'm definitely praying for those kids who are obviously lost and in need of a lot of prayer and a lot of guidance. That's just my 2 cents. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. And with that being said, I'll see you guys on the next one. God bless.